Billions of years ago, Earth was not the planet we know today. It was wild, unstable, and unpredictable, a world ruled by chaos, not balance. Imagine a sky without a moon. Nights were darker than the darkest caves. The stars shone like scattered diamonds, but they gave no comfort, only a reminder of the cold, empty universe beyond. The oceans churned restlessly under alien tides, pulled only by the sun's distant gravity. Winds tore across barren lands, carrying dust over endless volcanic plains. The Earth's España, a single day lasted only 6 hours, meaning the sun raced across the sky like a desperate flame that refused to linger. Life, it was barely an idea, hidden deep within the oceans. The seas boiled in places where volcanoes bled fire into the water, filling the air with toxic gas. Earth was young, scarred, and angry. Meteorites struck without mercy, leaving craters the size of continents. The air was heavy, thick with carbon dioxide and methane, making each breath, if you could take one, a poisonous challenge. Without the moon, Earth's tilt was unstable. Sometimes, the poles leaned dramatically, causing wild climate swings that could turn frozen wastelands into sweltering deserts within centuries. Seasons as we know them didn't exist. Life's struggle for survival was against forces too massive to predict. But then, something happened, something that would forever change our world, a collision so catastrophic, so unimaginable, that it nearly destroyed Earth. And yet, from that destruction, our moon was born. Before that moment, Earth was a planet without a guardian, a restless child spinning too fast through the void. After it, the moon became our stabilizer, our protector, our silent companion in the dark. This is the story of Earth before the moon, a time when chaos ruled, when days were short, nights were endless, and the planet's fate hung by a cosmic thread. It's a journey into a past so alien, so dangerous, that it challenges everything we think we know about our home. And it begins. In the darkness before the first moonrise, before we step into this forgotten chapter of Earth's history, make sure to subscribe to our channel. It's free, it takes only a second, and it helps us bring you more incredible journeys like this one. Turn on notifications so you never miss a story, because what you're about to hear is a tale billions of years in the making. The moon has always been more than just a glowing circle in the night sky. For thousands of years, humans have looked up at it and felt wonder, fear, and mystery. Poets have written about it, scientists have studied it, and lovers have confessed under its gentle light. But what if I told you, there was a time when the moon didn't exist at all? Long before the first humans, before the dinosaurs, before even the earliest microscopic life, our planet was alone, spinning in darkness, unbalanced and untamed. The moon we now take for granted wasn't there to guide the tides, to slow the Earth's spin, or to keep our seasons steady. The Earth was a world in chaos, and life as we know it today would have been impossible. This story isn't just about rocks, craters, and space dust. It's about how a single cosmic event reshaped our destiny. It's about a collision so violent it nearly destroyed our planet, yet somehow gave birth to the moon that has protected us ever since. To understand the Earth we live on today, we must travel back, way back, to a time when nights were moonless, days were only hours long, and the future of life itself was uncertain. The moon is not just a pale, lifeless rock hanging in the night sky. It is, in many ways, the silent architect of life on Earth. Without it, our planet would be an entirely different place, unstable, unpredictable, and possibly lifeless. Every night when we look up at the moon, we see beauty, but what we don't see is the invisible power it exerts over our world. It has been quietly working for billions of years, shaping oceans, guiding life, and protecting us from the chaos of the cosmos. The first and perhaps most visible role of the moon is its control over the tides. Tides are the rhythmic rise and fall of the oceans, and they are caused mainly by the moon's gravity pulling on Earth's water. This might sound simple, but it is one of the most important processes for life. Imagine the oceans as a giant heartbeat, pulsing every day because of the moon. These tides help circulate nutrients, keep coastal ecosystems alive, and even played a role in the very first steps of life moving from water to land. Without the moon's pull, the tides would be tiny, weak ripples caused only by the sun's gravity, far too small to drive the same cycles of life we see today. But tides are only part of the story. The moon also keeps Earth's axis, the invisible line we spin around, steady. Right now, Earth is tilted at about 23.5 degrees. This tilt is the reason we have seasons. Without the moon, that tilt would swing wildly over time, shifting between almost no tilt at all to extreme angles that would turn the planet into a frozen wasteland. One century, and a burning desert, the next. The moon's gravity acts like a steadying hand, keeping Earth's tilt stable enough for life to adapt and thrive. Without this stability, our climate would be unpredictable, making it incredibly difficult for complex life to evolve and survive. And then, there is the slowing of Earth's spin. When our planet was young, a day lasted only about 6 hours. That means the sun would race across the sky, and the world would change from day to night in a blink. The moon's gravity has been slowly pulling on Earth, acting like a brake over billions of years, stretching the day from 6 hours to the 24 hours we know today. This slower rotation gave life more time to adapt to the cycle of light and dark, allowed temperatures to become more balanced, and created the rhythms that most living creatures, including us, are built around. The moon even plays a role in protecting us from cosmic danger. It acts as a kind of shield in the sky. While Earth's atmosphere and magnetic field protect us from much of the sun's harmful radiation, the moon absorbs countless asteroid and meteor impacts that might otherwise hit us. Its scarred surface is like a record of its sacrifices. Every crater a reminder of the times it took a blow so that Earth didn't have to. Without it, many more impacts would have reached our planet, possibly wiping out life again and again before it had the chance to flourish. Even the climate owes much to the moon. By controlling the tides and stabilizing Earth's tilt, the moon indirectly shapes wind patterns, ocean currents, and the way heat moves around the globe. This balance allows regions to have predictable seasons, rainfall patterns, and food-growing cycles. Without such stability, ancient civilizations might never have had the security they needed to grow crops, settle down, and build the foundations of modern society. When we think of the moon, it's easy to imagine it as just a passive observer, drifting silently above us. But the truth is, it has been an active partner in Earth's story since the very beginning. Its presence has influenced everything from the movement of the seas to the length of our days. It has been a cosmic guardian, a clock, a climate regulator, and a quiet engineer of life. Without it, our world might be nothing more than a barren rock, endlessly spinning under a hostile sun. And perhaps the most beautiful part of this story is that we rarely even notice it. Every night it rises, glowing softly, its light reflecting the sun's brilliance back to us. It doesn't shout for attention, it doesn't demand our gratitude. Yet it is there, always there, holding our planet steady as we live out our lives below. It is a reminder that sometimes the most important forces in our lives are the ones that work quietly, without asking for recognition. The moon is not just part of our sky, it is part of our survival. When you look up tonight, remember, every wave that kisses the shore, every stable season that feeds life, every predictable sunrise, all of it, in some way, has been touched by the hand of the moon. We live in its embrace, even if we forget it. And long before we were here to admire its glow, it was already shaping the world we would one day call home. Billions of years ago, Earth was almost unrecognizable. It was not the calm, balanced world we know today. It was a restless, furious sphere spinning in the cold darkness of space. There was no moon to watch over it, no gentle silver light to break the night. The young Earth rotated much faster than it does now, completing a full spin in just about 6 hours. The sun would rise and set in what felt like the blink of an eye. Days and nights were short and frantic, and the rapid rotation gave the planet an almost dizzying energy. This speed made the winds howl across the surface with terrifying force, creating storms that circled the globe endlessly. The tilt of the planet's axis, the invisible line it spins around, was wild and unstable. Without the moon's gravitational pull to steady it, Earth wobbled like a spinning top, ready to fall. Sometimes the tilt was barely there at all, leaving the poles in constant twilight and the equator under the harsh, unchanging blaze of the sun. Other times the tilt swung dramatically, sending the poles into endless sunlight or freezing darkness for years at a time. This constant shifting meant there were no stable seasons, no reliable patterns of warmth or cold. Life, if it existed at all, faced an unpredictable and hostile environment that could change drastically in just a few thousand years, or even sooner. The atmosphere was heavy and alien. Thick clouds of carbon dioxide, methane, and ammonia hung low over the planet. The air was toxic to anything like us, carrying the sharp bite of volcanic gases. Volcanoes erupted constantly, painting the sky with ash and fire, while molten rivers of lava crawled across the land. The heat from inside the earth bled into the oceans, boiling water near the shores of volcanic islands. Lightning split the sky again and again, igniting storms that rumbled for weeks without pause. Rain fell not in gentle drops, but in fierce, hammering torrents that carved deep scars into the land. The oceans themselves were a strange and violent place. Without the moon's steady pull, tides were controlled only by the distant sun, making them weak and irregular. The water did not breathe with the rhythm of the moon, but sloshed restlessly, driven more by storms than by gravity. The seas were murky, filled with dissolved minerals, and stirred constantly by undersea volcanic activity. Gigantic waves could rise without warning, driven by fierce winds that whipped across the surface. In some places, the water was calm for days, only to be shattered by sudden tempests that could move mountains of water in a single afternoon. Life, if it had begun, clung to existence in fragile pockets. It likely lived deep in the oceans, where the sun's chaos could not reach, and where heat from underwater volcanoes provided the energy needed to survive. These earliest forms of life were simple, microscopic cells drifting in the warm, mineral-rich waters. They faced constant danger from shifting temperatures, violent currents, and the chemical storms of the sea. Without the moon's stabilizing influence, the planet's climate swung between extremes that made it almost impossible for life to take root on land. One century, the world might have been locked in a deep freeze. The next, it could be a sweltering greenhouse. The lack of the moon also meant Earth's nights were darker than anything we can imagine today. The only light came from the stars and the distant, pale glow of other planets in the sky. This darkness was absolute, heavy, and almost suffocating for any living creature on the surface. If such creatures even existed, night was a time of deep vulnerability. There was no friendly glow to guide the way, no gentle beacon in the sky. The stars were countless, but they were cold and silent, giving no comfort to the restless world below. Storms ruled the land and sea alike. With no moon to anchor the Earth's rhythm, the weather was wild and unpredictable. The fast rotation made cyclones and hurricanes far more powerful than anything we know today. Winds screamed across the continents, flattening anything in their path. The young Earth was a battlefield between fire from below and water from above. Volcanic eruptions turning the sky red while storms whipped the oceans into mountains. This was a dangerous, unstable planet. Its beauty, if it had any, was raw and terrifying. The kind of beauty that could crush as easily as it could inspire. There was a sense of constant motion, constant change, as if the planet itself was still trying to decide what it would become. Without the moon, there was no steady hand to guide it towards stability. Earth was alone, and in that loneliness, it was wild beyond measure. It's hard for us to imagine this world because everything about it would feel alien. The skies were a swirling canvas of orange, red, and black from volcanic gases. The sun appeared larger and hotter in the sky, rushing from horizon to horizon in just a few hours. Nights were cold and endless, and the silence between storms was so brief that it felt like the planet never truly rested. The oceans were not blue but dark and clouded, their surfaces broken by plumes of steam from underwater volcanoes. Land masses were smaller and scattered, constantly reshaped by eruptions and meteor strikes. Meteor impacts, in fact, were a regular part of life for this young Earth. With no large moon to take the hits, space debris often slammed into the planet, leaving enormous scars. These impacts could wipe out entire regions in an instant, boiling oceans and turning skies into ash-filled darkness. The surface was a constant record of violence. Craters, lava flows, and fractured rocks told the story of a planet still being forged, and yet, in this chaos, the seeds of life were being sown. The instability, the storms, the volcanic heat, and the lightning all created the right chemical reactions in the oceans to give birth to life. It was a dangerous cradle, but it was a cradle nonetheless. Without the moon, that life had to fight even harder to survive, adapting to a world that offered no mercy. The earliest living cells learned resilience in a way we can barely comprehend today. They endured crushing pressures in the deep sea, wild changes in temperature, and an atmosphere that could kill in moments. This was Earth before the moon, a planet in constant turmoil, beautiful and deadly all at once. It was a place of extremes, where the sky could turn from blue to black to fiery red in a single day, where the seas could rise up like walls and the ground could split open without warning. Without the moon's guiding presence, Earth's path was uncertain. It could have remained this way forever, a wild spinning rock in space, hostile to life and forgotten by the universe. But fate had other plans, and in the heart of this chaos, something was about to happen that would change the story of Earth forever. The chaos of the young Earth had been raging for tens of millions of years, but the most dramatic chapter was still to come. Somewhere far across the solar system, another planet was taking shape, a world we now call Theia. It was roughly the size of Mars, smaller than Earth but still massive, a fully formed body of rock, metal, and dust. For millions of years, they had moved quietly through its orbit, circling the sun like a distant neighbor. But its path was slowly, inevitably bringing it closer to Earth. The solar system in those days was like a crowded dance floor, with young planets and asteroids drifting in dangerous patterns, sometimes colliding, sometimes passing by in near misses. Fate had already chosen a different ending for Theia and Earth. Not separation, but impact. The moment they met was not a gentle meeting of worlds, but a violent, unimaginable collision. They slammed into Earth at a speed of nearly 40,000 kilometers per hour, faster than a bullet, faster than a bullet, faster than sound, faster than anything we can truly picture. The energy released in that instant was greater than the combined power of every volcano, every earthquake, every storm in Earth's history multiplied 1,000,000 times. It was enough energy to melt rock, to vaporize oceans, and to tear apart both planets. The ground itself turned into liquid. Mountains vanished in seconds. The sky was ripped open, filled with blinding light and fire. The force of the collision shattered they completely. Much of its material fused into Earth's core and mantle, becoming part of our planet forever. But an enormous amount of rock, metal, and molten debris was thrown into space. A cloud of glowing fragments so vast it briefly surrounded Earth like a fiery halo. Some of the pieces were no larger than pebbles, while others were the size of cities. This newly born ring of debris blazed against the darkness, illuminated by the molten Earth below, which was now a glowing, churning sphere of fire and magma. The collision didn't just change Earth's surface, it shook the planet to its core. The tilt of its axis shifted, and its rotation slowed slightly. The entire crust was destroyed and reformed. The oceans, if they could even be called that yet, were boiled away in a storm of steam and gas. The atmosphere was choked with dust and molten rock particles, creating a hellish sky of red and black. For weeks, perhaps months, debris rained back down onto the surface, each impact releasing enormous heat. It was a world remade in fire. But amid the destruction, something extraordinary was beginning. The cloud of debris thrown into orbit by the collision started to spread out and settle into a band around Earth. At first, it was chaotic, with fragments crashing into each other, breaking apart, and fusing together again. Slowly, over thousands of years, the pieces began to clump together under their own gravity. This was a delicate dance, a cosmic gathering of shattered parts. Each collision between fragments released energy, melting their edges so they could merge into larger bodies. Over time, these bodies grew larger and fewer, until eventually, one enormous object began to dominate the early moon. It was still a raw, molten world, glowing from the heat of its birth. From Earth's surface, if anyone had been there to see it, the moon would have looked impossibly huge, filling much of the sky. It was closer to Earth then, perhaps only 14,000 miles away, compared to the 238,000 miles it sits at today. Its gravity pulled fiercely at the molten seas and newly forming crust below, setting the stage for the tides that would one day nurture life. The moon's early life was violent as well. Countless smaller fragments still orbited Earth, and many of them crashed into the growing moon, leaving behind the craters and scars we can still see today. But as the centuries passed, the system began to settle. The ring of debris disappeared, either falling back to Earth or merging with the moon. The fiery glow of both worlds slowly faded as they cooled, though Earth's surface remained a hostile place for millions of years more. This single collision changed the history of our planet forever. Without Theia there would be no moon, and without the moon, Earth might have remained unstable, spinning too fast, wobbling wildly, and swinging through extreme climates that could have prevented complex life from ever taking hold. The impact slowed Earth's spin, giving us longer days. It stabilized our tilt, bringing the predictability of seasons. And it gave us the tides, a rhythm that would become essential for the earliest forms of life to crawl out of the sea and explore the land. The moon that emerged from this chaos was not just a piece of the past, it was a partner in the future. It had been forged in violence, born from fire and destruction, yet it became a steady, calming presence in Earth's sky. The craters on its face are the scars of that violent beginning, a silent record of a time when the solar system was young and dangerous. And every time we look at it now glowing softly above us, we are looking at a survivor of that collision, and at a piece of ourselves. Because the moon is made of Earth as much as Earth is made of the moon, it's almost poetic to think about. Theia, a planet that might have had its own story, its own future, became part of ours instead. In dying, it gave Earth the stability and protection it needed to one day host forests, oceans, cities, and civilizations. Its destruction was our beginning. The moon, hanging above us every night, is a reminder that sometimes creation requires destruction, and that beauty can rise from even the most violent events. If you could stand on the surface of Earth just after the moon formed, you would have seen a sky unlike anything that exists today. The moon would have loomed enormous and bright, so close that you could see its molten rivers glowing red. The Earth itself would still be steaming, its surface covered in lava plains, its air filled with ash and smoke. The world would have been silent except for the distant roar of volcanic eruptions and the hiss of cooling rock. And yet, in that silence, the future had already begun. The moon was there now, the guardian that would guide Earth toward stability, the partner that would dance with our planet for billions of years to come. This was the moment when Earth's story truly changed course. Before the moon, we were a planet in chaos, spinning too fast, wobbling unpredictably, and facing a future of uncertainty. After the moon, we had balance, rhythm, and the foundations of a stable environment in which life could flourish. The collision with Theia was a cataclysm, but it was also the greatest gift our planet ever received. When the firestorm of the Theia collision finally began to fade, Earth was no longer the planet it had been before. It was a world reborn, scarred, reshaped, and utterly transformed. The surface was a molten sea of rock, glowing like a living ember against the darkness of space. Huge plumes of steam and volcanic gases erupted from countless fissures, curling into the atmosphere and shrouding the planet in a thick, choking haze. For a long time, Earth was a furnace, its crust unstable, its air poisonous, and its waters vanished into clouds of vapor. The moon, newborn, and still molten itself, hovered much closer than it does today, its enormous presence dominating the sky. It glowed faintly red, a reminder of the cataclysm that had given it life. As the centuries and millennia passed, the raw fury of the impact began to give way to something calmer. Slowly, the surface of Earth cooled. The glowing rivers of molten rock hardened into solid crust, forming the first continents and vast plains of basalt. Steam condensed into rain, falling for thousands of years in torrential downpours that filled the basins and craters with the first oceans. These were not the gentle blue waters we know today. They were hot, mineral-rich, and constantly stirred by geothermal heat from below. Yet they marked the beginning of a new chapter, a time when stability was finally within reach. the moon's presence immediately began to influence Earth's behavior. One of its first and most important roles was stabilizing the tilt of Earth's axis. Before the collision, our planet had been spinning wildly, its tilt wobbling unpredictably like a top about to fall over. This instability caused chaotic climate shifts, with ice ages and scorching heat waves swapping places over short geological times. But now, with the moon's steady gravitational pull, Earth's tilt settled at a more consistent angle, about 23.5 degrees, and it stayed that way. This meant the climate could develop regular patterns, giving the planet its first true seasons. The difference was profound. For the first time, Earth had a rhythm, a predictable cycle of light and dark, warmth and cold. This stability would one day make it possible for life to adapt, evolve, and flourish. The moon also began its slow but constant work of lengthening Earth's days. In the chaotic years after the collision, Earth still spun much faster than it does now, completing a full rotation in perhaps 10 hours instead of the familiar 24. This rapid spin made winds ferocious and weather patterns unstable. But as the moon's gravity pulled on the planet, it acted like a brake, gradually slowing the rotation. Each passing million years added a little more time to the day, stretching it toward the length we experience now. With longer days came gentler transitions between day and night, allowing the surface to heat and cool more evenly. This balance smoothed out extreme temperature swings and created a more comfortable environment for the fragile beginnings of life. The atmosphere also began to change in dramatic ways. The collision had blasted much of the original atmosphere into space, leaving behind a mix of volcanic gases, carbon dioxide, methane, sulfur dioxide, and water vapor. It was a thick, oppressive sky, tinted red and orange by dust and chemical haze. But over time, the constant rain began to wash some of these gases out of the air, dissolving them into the oceans. Volcanic activity continued to pump out carbon dioxide, which kept the planet warm despite the sun being weaker in its youth. But the atmosphere gradually shifted toward a more stable composition. The greenhouse gases trapped heat, preventing Earth from freezing during the long cooling period that followed the impact. Cooling was a slow and uneven process. The crust solidified in some regions, while other areas remained volcanic for millions of years. Gigantic lava fields stretched for hundreds of miles, glowing under the faint light of the moon. Earth's first mountains rose from the crust, pushed upward by deep forces, only to be worn down by the unending rains. Rivers began to carve valleys into the new land, carrying minerals into the oceans. These minerals, combined with heat from underwater volcanic vents, created a rich chemical soup that would eventually serve as the cradle of life. The young moon, meanwhile, was retreating from Earth. Each year, it drifted a little farther away, its pull on the tides becoming slightly weaker, but still powerful enough to shape the oceans. In these early days, the tides were far more extreme than they are now. Water rushed inland for miles and then receded again, exposing vast stretches of coastline twice a day. This relentless movement stirred the shallow waters, mixing nutrients and creating countless little pools where chemical reactions could take place. These tidal zones may have been some of the first places where life's complex building blocks came together. The impact had also given Earth a new shield against cosmic chaos. The moon's gravity began to act as a protector, catching or deflecting some of the asteroids and comets that still roamed the solar system. Many of these space rocks slammed into the moon instead of Earth, leaving the scars we see on its surface today. Without this defense, Earth might have been struck far more often, each collision resetting the clock on life's progress. In this way, the moon became not just a stabilizer, but a guardian, taking blows so that our planet could heal and grow. Over millions of years, the once fiery planet settled into something more familiar. The crust thickened, the oceans deepened, and the atmosphere thinned enough to let sunlight reach the surface. The violent storms became less frequent, replaced by gentler winds that carried clouds across the sky. The moon, still enormous in the night sky compared to today, shone down on a calmer Earth, its silvery light reflecting off the waters it helped create. The chaos of the past had not disappeared, but it had been tamed, and in that newfound stability, the seeds of life could finally take root. What is remarkable about this period is how closely tied Earth's transformation was to the moon's presence. Every step toward stability, the steady tilt, the slowing spin, the rhythmic tides, the protection from impacts, was influenced by the moon. Without it, Earth might have remained in a state of violent instability, too hostile for anything more than the simplest forms of life. With it, the planet had the conditions needed to move forward, to grow, and to one day become the home of forests, oceans, and intelligent beings capable of looking back and telling this story. If we could stand on one of those early shorelines, we would see a world both alien and familiar. The air would still be thick and heavy, the land barren except for black volcanic rock. The oceans would steam gently in the warmth of the young sun, and the moon would tower above the horizon, its surface still cooling from its violent birth. And in that moment, without knowing it, we would be witnessing the first chapter of the stable, life-supporting Earth we live on today, an Earth forever shaped by the aftermath of one of the most violent events in the history of the solar system. In the earliest days after the moon was born, Earth was still a place of restless change. But the presence of this glowing companion began to shape the destiny of life in ways both subtle and profound. The tides, once chaotic and irregular, started to develop a rhythm under the moon's steady gravitational pull. Twice a day, waters along the shores would rise and fall, not just in random splashes, but in a predictable heartbeat that echoed across the coasts. These tidal pools became nature's first laboratories, shallow, sunlit basins where seawater could warm, cool, and concentrate nutrients. In these pools, tiny organic molecules could gather, combine, and test out the chemistry of life itself. Without the moon to tug at the oceans, these pockets of water might never have formed with such regularity, and the earliest microscopic pioneers of life may have lacked the stable havens they needed to evolve. The moon's influence extended far beyond the edges of the sea. Its constant gravitational embrace helped to hold Earth's tilt steady, keeping the seasons from swinging wildly between extremes. Without it, the planet's axis might have wobbled like a spinning top on the verge of falling, creating unpredictable climate shifts. Summers could have burned with unbearable heat, while winters could have plunged into endless ice, disrupting the fragile beginnings of life. Instead, the moon's silent presence brought a gentler rhythm to Earth's seasons, giving organisms time to adapt, grow, and pass their adaptations forward to future generations. This stability was like a cosmic promise, that the world would not change so fast that life could not keep up. As the eons passed, life began to move from the safety of the seas onto the shores and eventually inland. The moon's light may have guided some of the earliest nocturnal behaviors, influencing migration, reproduction, and feeding patterns of ancient creatures. Even today, corals time their mass spawning with the phases of the moon, a tradition older than the continents themselves. Such ancient patterns speak to a bond between life and the moon that stretches back to the dawn of biology. Perhaps the most overlooked gift the moon gave Earth's young life was its role as a shield. Floating far above us, it became a silent guardian against the chaos of space. Asteroids and comets, once frequent visitors to our planet's surface, found themselves colliding with the moon instead, sparing Earth from many catastrophic impacts. The pitted face of the moon, marked by craters, scars, and basins, is a record of the blows it took for us. Without its protection, the fragile web of early life might have been torn apart again and again before it had the chance to flourish. In many ways, the moon was not just a companion to Earth, but a partner in creation. It helped carve the conditions that made our planet not only habitable, but hospitable, a place where life could find its footing and eventually reach for the stars. Every tide that rolls in, every stable season that passes, and every safe night under the moon's glow is part of a story billions of years in the making. A story in which the moon has always played a quiet but irreplaceable role. Long ago, when Earth was still young and life was only beginning to whisper its first breath, the moon hung in the sky like a newborn guardian. It wasn't as far away as it is today. It loomed larger, brighter, more powerful. Its gravitational pull was fierce, tugging at Earth's oceans with an intensity we can barely imagine now. Twice a day the waters would surge inland and then retreat, carving the shorelines and creating shallow pools of seawater. These tidal pools were more than just temporary puddles, they were nature's first laboratories. Warmed by sunlight, filled with minerals and nutrients from the sea, these pools provided a safe and concentrated space for simple molecules to bump into each other and form complex compounds. Here, sheltered from the chaos of the open ocean, life began to experiment. Without the moon pulling the waters back and forth in this steady rhythm, these pools may never have formed in such abundance or predictability, and without them, life's earliest steps might have been delayed by millions, or even billions of years. The tides also acted like nature's mixing spoon. As they rose and fell, they kept these pools from becoming stagnant. Fresh nutrients were constantly brought in, and waste was carried away. Every cycle of the tide was like a breath. Inhale, exhale, that kept these fragile, early ecosystems alive. It's a poetic thought. Life's very first heartbeat may have been set by the moon. Imagine the scene. The early Earth under a blazing young sun, waves rushing in to fill rocky hollows, then sliding back into the sea, leaving behind shimmering pools filled with strange, unseen potential. In those still waters, perhaps the first living cells floated, multiplying in sync with the moon's pull. But the moon's gift to Earth wasn't only found in the water, it gave something even more precious: stability. Our planet doesn't spin perfectly upright. Its axis is tilted, currently at about 23.5 degrees, and that tilt is what gives us our seasons. Yet without the moon's steadying influence, that tilt would wobble wildly over time. Astronomers have calculated that without the moon, Earth's axis could tilt anywhere from almost 0 degrees to over 60. That means our planet could swing between having no seasons at all to experiencing seasons so extreme that one half of the globe would bake under endless daylight while the other froze in eternal darkness. In such chaos, life would struggle to adapt. Whole ecosystems could be destroyed before they had time to recover, but the moon's gravitational embrace holds Earth steady, like a hand guiding a spinning top, keeping the seasons predictable and gentle enough for life to not just survive, but thrive. Think of what that stability meant for evolution. Plants and animals could adapt to the slow rhythm of spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Migration patterns could develop, reproductive cycles could align with predictable times of year. Even in the ancient oceans, where most life remained for billions of years, seasonal changes in sunlight and temperature influenced plankton blooms and the movement of marine creatures. Over countless generations, this slow, reliable dance between Earth and Moon became the foundation upon which complex life could grow. And then there's the Moon's role at night, a softer, quieter influence, but no less important. For billions of years, its glow has lit the darkness, offering a faint silver pathway across the land and sea. To ancient creatures, the Moon was both a guide and a clock. Many species learned to time their lives by its phases. Sea turtles still use the Moon's light to find their way to the ocean after hatching. Corals release their eggs and sperm in perfect unison, synchronized with the full moon, so that the chances of fertilization are maximized. Insects, birds, and even fish have been shown to adjust their behavior to the lunar cycle. It is humbling to think that such instincts may have roots stretching back to the very first organisms capable of sensing light and dark. Yet perhaps the Moon's most heroic role was as Earth's shield. Our solar system, especially in its early days, was a dangerous neighborhood. Asteroids, comets, and other space debris regularly collided with planets. Earth itself bears the scars of some catastrophic impacts. The very event that gave us the Moon was one of the largest collisions in planetary history. After its formation, the Moon became a cosmic target. Many objects that might have struck Earth instead slammed into our lunar companion. Its battered surface tells the story. Craters overlapping craters, deep scars from impacts that could have been deadly for life on Earth. Without the Moon, our planet might have been struck far more often, and each major collision could have wiped out life's fragile progress, forcing evolution to start over again and again. It's not that the Moon blocks every danger, far from it. Earth has still faced massive impacts, like the one that ended the age of the dinosaurs 66 million years ago. But having a large satellite nearby reduces the number and severity of such events. This protection may have been critical in the early days of life, when organisms were too simple and too vulnerable to recover from repeated mass extinctions. In this sense, the Moon was more than a companion, it was a guardian, quietly taking hits for us over the ages. What makes all of this even more extraordinary is how interconnected it is. The tides nurtured the first stirrings of life. Stability in Earth's tilt gave that life a predictable environment to adapt to. The Moon's light became part of the biological clock for countless species, and its battered face tells the tale of a billion years of silent protection. Remove the Moon from the equation, and Earth would be a vastly different place. Perhaps life would still exist, but it might be simpler, rarer, and far less advanced. It might not have had the stable conditions or protection needed to develop the complexity we see today, let alone produce beings capable of looking up at the Moon and wondering about their own origins. There's also a deeply human element to all of this. Long before science could explain the Moon's role, our ancestors looked to it with awe. They noticed how it controlled the tides, how animals behaved differently depending on its phase, how crops and seasons followed a pattern that seemed tied to its cycle. For early humans, the Moon wasn't just a glowing orb in the night sky. It was a clock, a calendar, a mystery, and a source of guidance. They carved its phases into bones and painted it onto cave walls. They told stories about it, worshipped it, and feared it. Without even knowing it, they were recognizing the very real and life-shaping influence it had been exerting for billions of years. And even today, when we can send spacecraft to study it up close and analyze its history in laboratories, there is still something quietly magical about the Moon. It has been with us through all of human history, and with life through almost all of Earth's history. Every wave that crashes on a beach, every coral reef that spawns under a full moon, every creature that navigates by its light, all of these are echoes of a relationship as old as the oceans themselves. The Moon may be silent, but its influence speaks in the language of tides, seasons, rhythms, and protection. If we were to imagine Earth without it, we would see a planet far less friendly to life. The tides would be weak and irregular, offering fewer safe harbors for the chemistry of life to develop. The seasons could swing from brutal heat to endless ice, making adaptation nearly impossible. The night sky would be darker, robbing animals of an ancient guide. And without that silent shield taking the brunt of cosmic impacts, life might have been knocked back to its beginnings again and again. The fact that we are here at all, able to think, dream, and tell this story, is in no small part thanks to the Moon's steady presence. In the grand cosmic theater, Earth and Moon are partners in a long and delicate dance. One spins while the other circles, each shaping the other's fate in ways we are only beginning to understand. But one truth is already clear. The Moon was not just a witness to the rise of life on Earth. It was an active participant, a nurturing hand, a guiding light, and a steadfast protector. And as long as it hangs in our sky, the tides will keep their rhythm. The seasons will keep their order, and life will keep weaving its story beneath its silver glow. Without the Moon, our Earth would have been a very different place, a world perhaps unrecognizable to us. Imagine looking up at the night sky and seeing only a sea of distant stars. with no familiar silver companion casting its gentle glow over the land and oceans. That absence would not simply be an aesthetic loss, it would rewrite the story of life itself. Without the moon's gravitational pull, our planet's axis would be far more unstable, wobbling wildly over millions of years. This instability would mean chaotic and extreme shifts in climate, glaciers creeping down toward the tropics in one era, scorching heat waves engulfing the poles in another. Life, if it had managed to emerge at all, would be forced to endure constant environmental upheavals that could erase entire ecosystems before they had a chance to adapt. The tides, too, would be unrecognizable. Without the moon to tug on Earth's oceans, the tides would be far weaker, driven only by the distant sun. The gentle rise and fall of the seas that we know today would shrink to faint ripples. Those ancient tidal pools, nature's first laboratories for life, might never have formed in the same way. It was in such pools that simple organisms were nurtured, given time and space to adapt, grow, and evolve. Without the moon, those nurturing cycles could have been absent, robbing life of one of its most important early stages of development. Earth's rotation would also have been far faster. In the early days, without a moon to slow it, our planet might have spun so quickly that a day lasted only 6 to 8 hours. This rapid spinning would create shorter nights and days, leaving less time for temperatures to balance between sunlight and darkness. The result would be extreme temperature swings, scorching hot during the brief daylight, freezing cold at night. Many forms of life, especially those dependent on stability, might not have survived such violent cycles. There is also the matter of cosmic protection. The moon acts as a shield of sorts, taking impacts from asteroids and comets that might otherwise have struck Earth. Without it, our planet would have endured more devastating collisions over billions of years, collisions that could have reset the clock on life again and again, preventing complex organisms from ever emerging. Our history could have been one of endless beginnings, with no chance for sustained growth. Even the development of intelligent life might have been at risk. The stable climate provided by the moon allowed humans and our ancestors to develop agriculture, settlements, and civilizations over thousands of years without being constantly uprooted by catastrophic climate swings. Without that stability, it's possible that no species could have achieved such complex societies. Humanity, as we know it, might never have existed. Instead, Earth could have been a place of scattered, simple life forms, clinging to survival in an ever-changing and often hostile environment. In this alternate Earth, there would be no moonlit nights, inspiring poets, guiding travelers, or influencing cultural stories. The lunar calendar, which shaped human history, agriculture, and festivals, would never have existed. The rhythms of life, both biological and cultural, would be fundamentally different. It is even possible that without the moon, the conditions needed for life to begin at all might never have come together, leaving our planet a barren, unstable rock, adrift in the cosmic dark. The truth is that without the moon, Earth would have been a planet of uncertainty, extremes, and perhaps silence. It is not just a companion in the sky, it is a stabilizing force, a cosmic partner that has quietly shaped the destiny of our world. Without it, our story might have been far shorter or never begun at all. The moon has always been more than just a pale circle glowing in our night sky. It is our silent guardian, watching over our planet with a presence so constant that we often forget how deeply our existence is tied to it. Without it, Earth would not be the same place we know today. The tides that breathe life into our oceans, the stable tilt that gives us seasons, the shield that takes the blows from cosmic debris, all of these quiet miracles happen because the moon is there. It has been with us for billions of years, guiding the rhythms of life in ways both seen and unseen. We have walked under its silver light, told stories about it, prayed to it, and dreamed beneath it, never realizing that without it, those dreams might never have been possible at all. Our history as humans is entwined with the moon's presence. Ancient civilizations built temples aligned with its cycles, farmers planted and harvested by its phases, and sailors once navigated their way across uncharted seas by the glow of its light. It has been a symbol of love, mystery, and longing. Lovers have looked up at it across great distances, knowing they were gazing at the same celestial companion. Poets have poured their hearts into verses inspired by its quiet beauty, and children have fallen asleep listening to stories about it. It is more than just rock and dust, it is part of our soul. But the moon is not simply a passive observer in our lives. It is an active protector. Every day it absorbs impacts from meteors and space debris that might otherwise strike Earth with devastating force. Without this silent shield, our world could be far more dangerous, pelted more frequently by catastrophic impacts. The moon's gravitational pull has shaped our oceans and our climate for billions of years, creating the conditions for life to evolve and thrive. It has been our partner in survival since the earliest days of our planet. In many ways, the moon is like a lifelong friend who never asks for thanks. It doesn't demand our attention, but it is always there when we need it. Whether you see it as a protector, a companion, or a source of wonder, the truth is our world, our history, and even our hearts are shaped by its existence. Without the moon, there might never have been us at all. So tonight, when you look up and see its light spilling across the land, remember that you are looking at something ancient beyond imagination, something that has shaped the destiny of our planet in countless ways. It has been our guide, our shield, and our muse. And though it remains silent, its presence speaks louder than any words could. The moon is not just a part of our night sky, it is part of who we are. Without it, Earth would be a lonely, unstable, and perhaps lifeless rock, drifting through space. With it, we are alive, thriving, and endlessly inspired. It is our silent guardian, and it always will be. As we reach the end of this journey, let's take a moment to truly feel the weight of what we've uncovered. The moon, our constant companion in the sky, has shaped our world in ways most of us never think about. It has guided the oceans, steadied our seasons, shielded our fragile planet, and quietly nurtured life itself. Every breath we take, every harvest we gather, every sunrise we wake, all of it has been touched, in some way, by the moon's influence. It has been with us since the very beginning, long before the first human looked up in wonder, and it will remain long after we are gone. But beyond the science, there's something deeply human about our connection to it. The moon has been the silent witness to all our history, every joy, every sorrow, every triumph, and every tragedy. It has looked down on ancient empires rising and falling, on ships sailing into the unknown, on quiet lovers holding hands under its light. Its glow has been a comfort to those who felt alone, a beacon for those who were lost, and a reminder that even in darkness, there is beauty. And now, perhaps we see it differently. Not just as a beautiful object in the sky, but as a partner in our very existence. We are here because it is there. Our planet spins as it does, our seas breathe as they do, our climate holds steady, all because the moon has been keeping watch. Without it, the story of Earth would be entirely different, and perhaps there would be no story at all. So the next time you step outside on a clear night, pause for a moment. Look up, let your eyes find that ancient face in the sky, and remember, you're not just looking at a distant rock. You're looking at an ally, a guardian, a timeless friend, who has been shaping the destiny of our world for billions of years. The moon will never speak, but its presence says everything. I am here. I have always been here, and I always will be, because in the vast, cold darkness of the universe, it's comforting to know we have never truly been alone. And before you go, if this journey through time and space opened your eyes to the hidden bond between Earth and the moon, don't let it end here. There are countless more stories, some just as mysterious, some even more breathtaking, waiting to be told. So hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join us for the next adventure into the wonders and secrets of our universe. Your curiosity is the fuel that keeps these explorations alive, and together, we can keep uncovering the truths that lie just beyond the horizon. The moon will keep watching over us, and we'll keep watching the skies.